All right, I know I'm not going to demonstrate this running because I know it's not going to run. The recording of the launch of the browser wasn't captured. Let me see if I have. I think I do. I think I have a. Oops. Here we go. So I did basically the same thing over here. Let's just run this, see what it looks like. Unless I mess something up today, this should work just fine. Okay, and we passed, so cool. Now a couple of things to note. When I did my validation, again, I'm not worried too much about best practice. I just want to get the concepts across here. When I did my validation, a better validation would be something like validate that the last row in this grid has the correct whatever reference number and corresponding title, because the validation probably would have worked even if I went in and say deleted this item or something like that, because there were two of them there. So what I just demonstrated isn't a very robust, terribly useful example, and you do have to get in and do a little bit better coding with validations if you want it to be a really strong test. Unless, and I believe this is a good idea, if you're always starting from the same point. So let's imagine I've got a database that before I launch my coded UI test, I've got a golden database with known data in there, and I know that every time I launch a test, it's going to look like this. Then I can get away with some weaker validations by making sure I'm using unique data and that sort of thing. So I definitely recommend that. If you're doing heavily data-driven type testing, I definitely recommend starting at a known good state every time. If that makes sense. All right, so then the final thing I want to show is multiple UI maps. And this gets a little more complicated, but there's still a lot of recording. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and keep this fairly quick because I want to get to these other things. I want to create a new folder. So I'm going to add a new folder, call it my UI maps. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm kind of mentally, I'm going to break down this application into different pages. And I'm only going to store the control information for one page in one UI map. Okay, so each different page is going to get its own unique UI map. So to do that, I'm going to go add, and it's not on my shortcut list here, so I have to say add new item. And then up here in my test type in search, I want a coded UI test map. And let's call this the home page map. Okay, it's going to come up to the recorder, and now I'm going to go ahead and try and record the launching of the browser this time. I may just never do that again. I won't. Okay, let's try this again. I'm not going to, if I don't launch the browser when the recorder's happening, I'm just going to, it's a demo file. Okay, so let's start again. Edit with coded UI test builder. Okay, so recorder comes up. Assume I was already on the home page. Okay, now I can start doing my recording. So now I'm going to do the click the create new button. Generate to get the demo moving along a little better here. I'm not going to be as granular with my generation as I was. So I'm gonna call this I did 3 actions within that. That's fine if you want to. If you're always doing the same thing, that's fine. Just got to record that. I messed up. I totally messed up. I was recording things on 2, 3 different pages and putting it in a single map. So let me reset a minute here. I'm gonna just delete that all together. Okay, so the only controls I want to record are those that are on the home page, right? So all I really want to record here is the create new. Okay, and that's what else do I want to do on this page, right? So if I go back to dashboard, the other things I want to be doing is I want to be asserting things, right? And so this controls on the home page, so I'm going to add my assertion here. Okay, so I added assertion, generate it. Okay, so I'm done with this page. And we go back to Visual Studio, and again, now we're just doing sort of a modular thing. So I've got a home page that contains, my home page map contains all the controls within my home page that I'm interacting with. I'm going to add another new map for my, let's call it the create ticket page. Okay, a recorder comes up for me. So I'm only interested in recording things on this page, right? So I'm going to go, let's record. Okay, and you can imagine, so I'm going to go on and I'm going to record the description and the customer. And then I think one other thing worth noting here is now, notice when I record the create and generate, this time when I type in my click, I don't have a conflict with that other control that I tried to call the same thing, something like click create button. I don't have a conflict because it's in its own map, its own little container. That's definitely nice. And generate that. Okay, now if I had more time, now I'm on the details page, so I'd add yet another UI map called details, and maybe it makes sense in here to go and do some assertions and validate some times or things like that, and then I'd record the back to list. And what that's going to look like, the finished product, would be something like this. Okay, so if I take a look at my UI maps, now I've got a homepage UI map, I've got the new ticket UI map, I've got the ticket details UI map, and when I write code against that, I'm going to have to do things a little bit differently. And the keys here are going to have to be up in your using section. You're going to need to add a using to all the UI maps that you're interested in using. So the using, coded UI test, UI maps.homepage, and new ticket and ticket detail are all right here. And then what I've done is created some private variables because I know that every test method within here is going to have to interact with those. So I've created some private variables, and I knew up those pages, those maps, when I start the testing. All right, now coding against that, I think, is a lot more comfortable now. So now if I go to my home map, and I look at the IntelliSense, I've got far fewer controls and things that I can interact with, right? So I can launch the browser. There should be some kind of a click create new, and there's the close. And so I've got far fewer things because I've created all these small little UI maps or small little buckets full of controls. So this is going to be a lot easier to interact with.